And we are live on a Thursday night, OmniBros Live. Welcome. I'm Omnidog from Omnidog's Vault, back from an extended vacation at Walt Disney World. That's right. I'm one of those weirdos who's a grown-up that goes to Disney World. That's right. I'm that kind of crazy guy that does that. So tonight we have a special episode for you. We have Under the Radar, Underappreciated Gems with a special co-host from Fangirlz Assemble. We have a fangirl, Kristan Robertson.
Yay!
There she is. How's it going,
crossing
Kristan?
over. I'm so excited to cross over.
It's a big crossover. Worlds
this hasn't
collide.
happened yet, right? I don't think so.
I don't think we've crossed over yet.
Pretty positive, no.
No,
Does
this
that make
is
me
our
a
first
bro?
crossover.
Am I a fan bro? Am I a bro girls?
Bro girls.
I'm a
Omni
bro girl.
girls. We're Omni girls. Nathan Burkholz, you were not promised death. You brought death up on your own because this is Crisis on Infinite comic shows. So Gio will be here in a moment. He's racing home from work. So we thought we would just get the show going at 8 o'clock. Where's Martha? Well, Martha's who we probably lost in the Crisis on Infinite YouTube shows. So what we should talk about first, of course, is we're going to be talking about obscure books, but most of these obscure books, yes, I've gotten on InStockTrades.com, where you can get your collected editions for up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. Every quarter, there's an OmniBros discount code. And I'll throw a pitch in for Fangirlz Assemble, where there's always some kind of special discount code going, it seems.
Yep. We're going to have a new pick of the month, probably in 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that.
Okay, they've always got their picks of the month where you get a special discount going. Over $50 in an order in the United States, you get free shipping. Unbelievably great customer service there at InStockTrades.com. And fabulous packaging. That's InStockTrades.com. We love them. You love them. They seem to tolerate us. So it works out. So Omar completely missed the jingle last Monday. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that. And Nathan says he's here just to derail me. Well, that's good.
It's working.
It's working. You're completely fucking me up. Okay, so the first thing we should talk about, of course, is since Gio's not here yet, we wouldn't necessarily want to start without him, but Kristan and I are members of the Goose fan club.
Yeah.
We love Goose in Captain Marvel. Oh,
there
wait.
She is.
Let me isolate. Let me isolate there we go.
It is official. Goose is female, for sure.
Goose is a female flirkin. And we are united in our love for Ben Mendelsohn, a fabulous Australian actor who was so great in that movie, and he was great in Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill, and in Bloodline on Netflix, which is a very dark 3-season story, but he's skin and bones in that thing and talks with an amazing American accent, and you can't even tell it's him. Ben Mendelsohn is the shit, man. He is a great actor. So Omnipool says he missed me. Thank you. And Mr. Awesome, I didn't wear Mickey ears. I did have a Mickey pin that I did wear. Is One More Day one of your underappreciated obscure books? One More Day? You mean Spider-Man One More Day? Or is that Spider-Man Brand New Day? One More Day is so obscure, I don't even know it.
I'm going to Google it.
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either. I didn't lie to you.
That is a Spider-Man book, so
Okay, One More Day. Yeah, no, I don't know that it's an underappreciated obscure book. I think One More Day is probably that book that everybody hates. Yeah, I think that One More Day is considered that book that retconned everything and everybody hated it. One More Day is horrible. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Worthy of root beer kind of thing.
Yeah, I've never even read it. So many people have warned me away from it that I haven't even read it. It's one of those books that apparently retconned everything bad to the max, and root beer book, Mr. Awesome says. Yeah. So while we are waiting for Geo, we have a few books that but is the second worst Spidey story. Okay, you've got me hooked, Nathan. What's the first worst Spidey story? That was One Moment in Time. Is that the worst Spidey story? Nathan, what is the worst Spidey story? Trouble by Miller is the worst. Okay, well, we've established that One More Day is a terrible book, a root beer book. Okay. And we've also established that we love Goose. And we've also established our love for Ben Mendelsohn. So let's talk about obscure, not obscure, but underappreciated, under the radar gems. Because E. Tyler Lindvall threw down the gauntlet on the Omnibus page saying we get sidetracked, which we are in danger of getting sidetracked.
Well, it's not even 10 after yet, so we're good.
That's right. That's right. We are going I admit, last episode on Thursday, it turned into a birthday episode for me, and we just sort of bopped around and answered questions and had fun. So this is actually part 2, Aiku, because last week it was a birthday episode, and we just answered questions and had fun and goofed around. And here's ETL. Yes, I am going to stick to this episode guide because we've got a special guest in Kristan here, and we're not going to goof around too much. We are going to stick to the underappreciated, under the radar gems that we're talking about. Yeah, part 2 got derailed.
I do have to answer this very important question from Philip, though, who's wondering how I know Goose is female from a bobblehead goose. I don't. There's nothing happening down here. This was confirmed on the internet by several sources, because if you recall in Captain Marvel, Dr. What's-Her-Face in the beginning, when you first see Goose, calls her she. And then Sam Jackson later on says he. I think just because he doesn't know how to tell, which is fine. It's not hard, but it's fine.
Chase Chu, I did get my SIP 25 hardcover while I was gone. It's upstairs though. I
got mine right here.
Oh, you did? What number did you get?
109.
109. And yeah. How do you tell? Is it in the book or on the
little book plate? Says it down here.
Oh, the little book plate. Okay.
Yeah, you got to stick it yourself, and I'm afraid, so I haven't yet. I'm like,
yeah, I'm not sticking
I'm gonna have it be crooked, and yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I'll just
not right now.
Yeah. I hope you are gonna mention Power Rangers, very underrated series. Tyler feeling all full of himself because he has Power Rangers 1 and 2. Yeah, mine's upstairs. I forgot to bring it down here, didn't I? Yeah, it's sitting on the kitchen table in full view of my wife, so I hope she just ignores it. Although it's not a big deal if she sees it. Okay, so let's go to the guest. I say, show me your first underappreciated gem.
Well, since Geo isn't here, and it's just you and I, you've read this book, so I couldn't talk about anything without, again, mentioning Sheets. I've talked about this a lot on Fangirls. I've talked about it on your show, in fact, but it has to be talked about here because not enough people are reading Sheets. This is from Lion Forge. Everyone's already heard Jess talk about it, I'm sure. It's about a teenage girl. She works at a laundromat, and it's fabulous. I don't even know what else to say. It's just fabulous. The art is beautiful. It'll give you a lot of feels. Like you said, I agree. It's very sad in the beginning. Her mom's dead. Things are upsetting. She's having to take over this family business herself. But eventually she meets this little ghost boy who has a sheet on. And that's how ghosts and spirits in this world kind of have a physical form, if you will. And a lot of stuff happens with that. And it's just so good. It's the like best thing I think I've read so far this year. It gives me feels. And Mary in the chat actually got this signed for me at New York Comic Con with a little ghost. So thank you, Mary.
That is awesome.
This physical book too is very nice. Like, it has the French flaps. The interior pages are really cute. There's like glossiness on the cover. It's unlike anything I think I've ever read. Would you say so too?
I agree. The last third of that book just is a great finishing. It brings it all together. I hate to use this word, although somebody told me I was this word, and that's wholesome. It is so wonderful. I did review it recently. You suggested it. I read Sheets, and I also read what's the other book that
Louisa. Now and then.
Louisa, right. I was having a terrible day, and I read Louisa and Sheets, and they both made me feel so much better. But Sheets does sort of have an awful lot of real life teenage angst going through the first 2/3, maybe half of the book, and then you've got this poor little ghost boy who's having trouble adapting in his the world before he can make it. They have to adjust to their form in this world before they can go to the next, and he's having trouble adjusting, and somehow their worlds collide, and then they connect in such a way that it becomes really beautiful and has such heart, and is so wonderful, and the book ends up so beautiful and wonderful and fun. It is just absolutely fun, where it's like barren ground, all of a sudden flowers just spring up, and you're just like, oh my God, I love this book, because I can't thank you enough for pounding the table on this book. It is a really good book and really fun, and I loved that book.
And everything with the villain and how that turns out. I mean, yeah. I won't give it away, but it's like, I get so angry when I read a book and I'm having a great time and it's so good. I get to the end and I'm like, what'd you do? It falls off, and you're like, why? This is terrible. But this is not like that at all. Like this, like you said, the ending really just brings it all together. It's one of the best endings, again, I've read this year. It's so good. So if you guys haven't picked it up after all this, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I'm sure it's very cheap on IST.
Yeah.
The cover price is $13. So
yeah, we're both raving about it. And Gio is making it ETL. He's just a little late coming home from work. But he is making it. He'll sign on just a little bit late. But yeah, we're both raving about it. It is just a fun, really fun book that is a blast to read. Yeah, I wholeheartedly, that definitely, I'm doing like I did last year, which is something different for me, and that is I'm keeping track of everything I read. So I'll be able to make that and Louisa one of my top picks when we come to end of the year picks. That was just a wonderful book.
Are you finally using Goodreads?
I haven't started. No, I haven't. I haven't started scanning my books yet. I really need to. Yeah, no, I suck. I don't even have an excuse. I could just.
It's just so helpful. I don't know where I would be without it. I really don't. And like even making this list, I went back a few years to the things I read those years because it's so easy just to button on Goodreads. Because I forget. I'm like you. I forget. Like I don't know what I read last year.
Yeah, and any library thing or CLZ or any kind of software thing. I've got like 5 of them on my phone, and I could just take a shelf a day and be done with it in a few weeks. And I just never even think about it. So I just need to do it. And
it'll make life easier. That's all.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have to derail it. I'm just saying.
No, and because one thing I'm famous for, I don't do it as much as I did, but that's double dipping and buying things that I already have. That's a major thing that I really need to do it for.
Definitely helps. I don't know where I would be without the CLZ app either. I take that to cons. I take that to half price books. Like, I don't know, like, there's a lot of series, I'm sure you're the same, where you get something for cheap and you have like 1, 2, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And you got to fill those holes. I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have it right in my phone,
Yeah. Caldwell Comics, I did do the Avatar ride at Disney, and it was amazing. It was almost as good as the Yeti ride roller coaster at Animal Kingdom, which is my favorite ride at Disney. The Mount Everest expedition, where there's broken tracks and then you go backwards at top speed. And the Avatar ride, though, is awesome. It is remarkable. It doesn't beat my favorite all-time ride, which is Aerosmith's Rock and Roller Coaster, though. I still love that ride. I'm going to do the same thing Kristan did, and that is I'm going to pound the table on a book I've already reviewed. I made a special video for only it, and it hasn't. Star Wars Park has not opened yet. It opens in August. I made a special video for this. I made a special post on the Omnibus group Facebook page, and the fact that it hasn't sold out yet at IST, I'm taking personally. So I want you all to take me seriously when I talk about Hillbilly by Eric Powell. The fact that it hasn't sold out yet means it's underappreciated and under the radar. It needs to get on your radar and in your collection, on your to-read pile, and in your Goodreads app as something you've read. This is about a guy named Rondell who is a witch hunter. And he grew up blind until a witch carved out black eyes for him, and he cries black tears every once in a while. He has the devil's meat cleaver, which he uses to kill all manner of evil witches and evil trolls, goblins, Helgramites, all kinds of evil things. And one of the coolest things is he has a gigantic grizzly bear as a best friend who he can talk to. This is Eric Powell. I think this is Eric Powell's, I'm going to say it, I think it's better than Goon. And you're looking at a guy that thinks Goon is the greatest thing in the world. I loved Goon. Here in this tale, this is book 1. There's a young girl who has fallen under a witch's spell, and they call upon Rondell to see if he can break the spell, and it's a whole story of how he actually does break the spell, what he has to go through to break the spell. And It's it's like that, and it's great. Then they encounter. Then he ends up a young boy that he originally befriends on the path. Early in the first story, grows up and becomes sort of part of his party, walking around helping root out evil. They're on a path to find an important stone that has been stolen by these trolls. These trolls steal it, the stone, and this fish tells him where to go to find the stone. Then this dog tells him where to go to keep finding the stone as they're on a hunting party. And they encounter what turns out to be this huge mountain lion, which turns out to be a white witch, a good witch. And they battle, and it's awesome. It is just, I mean, I just can't get over how good this book is. The artwork is just the finest brush, pen, ink, whatever Eric Powell uses. The colors in it are muted. He also has a tale in here about a haunted violin that wreaks havoc on a place. And it all builds up. It's 3 volumes. It all builds up. It's got a bunch of good stories in volume 2. Then volume 3 builds up to the final battle. The final battle of good versus evil. Giant party of evil goblins, evil witches, evil this, evil that. Well, where they are all... Rondell has to go into town after town trying to convince the townspeople that they need to take up arms against the coming of a bunch of witches. And, of course, they get laughed out of town after town until finally they get one town that will back them up. And through it all, there's the story of the Iron Child, which is very important to the story because the Iron Child is the one who's going to save them all. And the Iron Child ties into it's a myth that gets told throughout the story. And the Iron Child myth ties in very neatly into all of this. I don't want to say how, but it is extremely well told. And Rondell is very heroic, very human, even though he's not necessarily like you or me. But the things that he gets people to do in fighting for their lives to save themselves from the coming witch doom is amazing. And the artwork is stunning. These books are cheap. They're from albatrossfunnybooks.com, which must be Eric Powell's own label. So I'm begging you all to read Hillbilly. It's 3 volumes, super fun, excellent, excellent. There's humor, there's pathos, there's all kinds of excellent shenanigans going on in this book. Predicaments, fights. There's no hobo fights, but there's lots of witch fights and goblin fights and troll fights and all kinds of, grizzly bear. The guy has a grizzly bear that talks to him. It's really, really good. I love it.
I'm going to have to read that.
Yes.
I've been wanting to, but you really bang that drum hard.
I cannot get over. Not only can Eric Powell draw like the Dickens man, he can tell a story. I just love Hillbilly. So far, this is my book of the year.
That's saying a lot.
I know. It's going up against Sheets and Louisa.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to work harder on my recommendations.
If I didn't enjoy The Goon, would I like Hillbilly? It depends. It still deals with the occult, not heavily, but I mean he's dealing with trolls, goblins, witches, the occult, and things like that. So you're going to have to suspend your disbelief in that kind of stuff. You know, The Goon, he deals with zombies and things like that. So I guess it's possible you might not like it. What I would do is I would get the first issue on Comixology or get the first issue online and read it, because the first issue is very much how the whole story goes. So you know what? I think that the first issue actually might be free, maybe on Albatross Funny Books or on Comixology. So check that out. It might be free on Albatross Funny Books or on Comixology. I'm not positive about that, but if you have any sort of hesitation, try it out on Comixology and try it there.
I think you just sold that book for everyone.
Forge Ryley said, man, he's pimping this hard. I am kinda.
It looks like there is a preview on Comixology. I don't know what that means, but there's a free preview.
Oh.
Oh, it's in a Comixology original short story.
Oh yeah, they have that included. They have that included here in volume 1, a Comixology story. Promo story, blah blah blah. Yeah.
So that's probably a good start.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah, for free, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a book that I was given to for free by someone. They didn't want it. And I was like, okay, I'll read anything. I've never heard another person ever talk about it. They didn't want it simply because they were like, it's not for me. Like, I didn't even try it, don't want it, whatever. Not going to go into it more than that. But it was free for me. I would pay all the money for it. It is archival quality. Oni Press put this out this year. And it is in my top 5, 100% of what I've read this year so far. So this is about this girl right here. I'm forgetting her name right now, but she's a girl. She gets fired from her job as a librarian due to a mental breakdown. So she doesn't know what she's doing in her life. Everything's kind of crashing down on her. She's dealing with a lot of mental problems. And she sees a job opening for an archivist at a local museum. So she takes it because she's like, I got to do something else with my life. I need a job. You know, something's got to change. So as she's dealing with life and problems with her relationship, problems with her mental health, and, you know, taking this new job, she realizes she works late at night. She starts hearing weird things as she's archiving these old photographs and different documents, various things she has to archive. She starts hearing stuff, things start moving. She's like, okay, what's happening here? So all this creepy stuff starts happening. Not a lot of people work at this museum. She's hearing weird stories about its history. So there's a spooky element. You don't know what's going on. And when you realize what's going on, this is really hard to talk about because it's like, I don't want to ruin it. But it's so good. I got so invested in her story. I thought this is a really, really good depiction of mental health and the problems she deals with. This is technically under paranormal and mystery, according to the back. And I think it's just anyone would, I don't know. I recommend this to anyone and everyone. I love the art. I'm a big fan of cartoony art, though. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I think this is a really underappreciated Oni Press gem that I don't hear anyone talk about. And it really, really got me good. And it's one of those with a great ending where you're just like, oh yes, like everything comes together perfectly, not like tied up in a like bow and it's like so perfect, but it's just exactly what it needed to be. And again, just the mental health stuff that never gets talked about is talked about in here, or doesn't get talked about enough. So I think you'll get really invested. There's ghosty elements. There's a deep look at mental health. It's incredibly interesting and a unique story that anyone should check out because it's really, really great.
Sounds boss.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
It's archival quality, it's called?
Archival quality. It gave me a lot of feelings. I just go to Sheets, right? But it was just so good.
What's the book that broke you? Was it Upgrade Soul?
Yeah. Here's the thing about Upgrade Soul. I was actually going to mention that today, and I guess I will. I just don't own it. I read it from the library, and it's checked out. So I was like, well, I have nothing to show people. But if you haven't read Upgrade Soul, which I think was also Lion Forge, I think, who published that. Oh, it broke me in like it was the weirdest, creepiest, craziest thing I think I've ever read.
Oh wow.
And it drained me. Like I got to the end and I was like, oh, what did I just go through? But I couldn't stop. Like it was so insane that I read it fast and I couldn't stop. And if you haven't read it, I would recommend reading it, but it will drain you. It will hurt you a little bit. Like it's
when I was having my bad day and I was reading Louisa and Sheets, I think I texted you and I said, I've got Upgrade Soul next. And you said, it broke me, so I'm not sure you should be reading it today. And I'm like, oh, okay, I better not read it.
I think once you read it, like you'll really understand. Yeah, Mary's saying I made her read Upgrade Soul. It was an experience. That's a good way to put it. Like it is nuts. It is the weirdest thing you'll ever read. It is really nuts. But the soul of the story, I don't mean to take that from the title, but the soul of the story, I don't even know how to explain it because even telling you the plot is kind of a spoiler because you think it's one thing in the beginning and it turns into something totally different. And that's when you go, whoa, what am I reading? Because that's what I did at night when it kind of freaked me out. I was like, hold on, what's happening? It's an experience. It's one you should take. And anyone watching, you should check it out. If you have Hoopla, that's where I read it. So you can get a free on Hoopla. But it's good, but it's crazy. It will take part of your soul, Jess. That's what Mary said. That's true. I think it took part of my soul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I own it, and that day I read Prism Stalker, and that was an odd book. I was gonna review it, and I just didn't even know how I could review it. There's Gio.
I'm here. Sorry.
On his new laptop.
Actually, it's my old one. I'll tell you guys later what happened, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. You're here. That's what counts.
Sorry I'm late. I'm sorry. Kristan, thank you for being here, and everybody in the chat as well. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. No worries. Yeah, I was just saying that I read Prism Stalker, and I enjoyed it, but I'm not sure I could explain to the audience what it was about or how I enjoyed it. It was like the only way I could explain it is like these people are brought to a planet and learn to use the planet as a weapon, and the planet manifests itself in like 5 different ways. If you can tap into the planet properly, it manifests itself in 5 different ways of defense and offense. defensive and offensive weaponry, and but that's really all I could say. I mean, it's the trippiest thing. It's like, it was like if the guy what's the guy that wrote took over Prophet? Was that Brandon Graham? Or that's not right. Who did? Oh, I can't think now. I'm jamming up on my creators. King City. Who did? Anybody out there know who did King City? It's like the creator of King City dropped acid with Paul Pope and Brandon Graham. Yeah, Brandon Graham. Yeah, Brandon Graham and Paul Pope dropped acid together, and then they fused and they created this book, and it's inexplicable, and I can't even describe how. I did enjoy it, but I can't explain it. It was just so wacky. But then after I read that, that's when I texted you about Upgrade Soul, and you were like, I don't think you should read that today. So
well, I decided not to. Since you're trying to explain that, my short pitch for Upgrade Soul is it's about this older couple, and they're dealing with health ailments, and they're older, they've got problems, and one's a doctor and one is a businessman, I believe, and he finds this like underground organization that is doing like a cloning experiment. So he goes to his wife and he's like, hey, we can get these bodies we always wanted. We can go back in time. Even, healthier than we've ever been. The peak of fitness. This is what we can do. But it turns into a whole like crazy, crazy situation. But that is the baseline. You'll go into it thinking that's what's happening. It turns into something nuts. You should read it. But on the day where you can handle it.
Yeah, on the day when I can handle it. Okay. Okay, well, we've talked about some books, Gio. Do you have some books you'd like to talk about?
Sure. Let me pick a random book out here. I don't know if any of you guys mentioned it. I'm sorry for double dipping here. One of the picks is Firebug from Image Comics. It's written by Johnny Christmas and art by Tamra Bonvillain. I think I said that right. And it's a wacky story basically about this fire goddess trapped in this island paradise where she's trapped by this cult that believes that in order to save the town from the volcano exploding, they have to keep this goddess trapped, and they dated and drugged and all that stuff into this so that she could rule over the island. It's a wacky story, but I really enjoyed it. It has really cool art and a lot of political allegories and religious themes. It can be a little bit confusing because the story takes like 3 different plot twists, but overall it's pretty fun. I like stories that take chances like this and try to do like their own type of world building. I'm not sure if they want to do like a sequel or something, but it's pretty good. I don't know if you guys have read or know about Firebug.
I've never heard of it.
But
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it. The cover alone just really intrigued me. I thought it looked pretty cool. The color palette and just the character designs and everything. It spoke to me. I don't know. It's pretty cool.
When did you read this?
I think it was last year. It came out in 2017 or 2018. And a volcano goddess named Keegan is loose in the world, and the prophecies are unclear. Will her coming bring humanity's destruction or its salvation? So it's that type of story, but it has a few twists and turns that I think most people will like.
The art looks cool.
Yeah, it like I can't put my finger on it, but it's like very I'm trying to think of the artist. I forgot of a comic book I read, but I don't know. I thought it looks pretty interesting. So yeah, that's one of my recommendations.
Nice.
Firebug.
Firebug.
How many books have you got?
Huh?
No, sorry. Continue.
No, it's an Image book I haven't heard of. I'm surprised. Let's see. I talked about one book, and Kristan's talked about 2 books. So we have we really just have gotten started. We started out talking about how much we liked Goose from Captain Marvel.
Oh hell yeah! Goose was the best part of that movie.
Goose was the best.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute. Like I love when you can do crazy stuff like that, and include animals and furry companions in the Marvel and comic book movies. So that was awesome.
I think you just sold 2 copies of Upgrade Soul. Looks like Fangirl and Babylon Shadows just sold.
Nice.
Just
cool.
Got Upgrade Soul.
Well, you guys are gonna have to tell me what you think about it, and if it hurts your soul, like it hurt mine.
She's missing a chunk of her soul due to that book. Let's see. I'll talk about. Now, I don't know if this is available still in this format, but I know the paperbacks are still available, and that is Stuff of Legend. This is the omnibus. And I don't know if it's still available in omnibus format, but the paperbacks are still available. And this is set during World War II, and it's by Mike Raicht, R-A-I-C-H-T. And a little boy goes missing, stolen by the boogeyman, and his toys set out to find him. And not only are they dealing with, the boogeyman and all his creatures, but they're dealing with the boy's discarded and forgotten toys that he's left behind. They're bitter and not happy that his current toys have taken precedent over his old toys. So this is a 2 omnibus set. The story hasn't been finished yet. You can get it. You can get the trade paperback still, but it's told in these muted colors. It is a wonderfully. It pulls at your heartstrings the whole way through what these toys are willing to go through to save their master, so to speak, what they're willing to do to go find him. And I think one of the things that hurts the book is that nothing recent has come out about it. This is a book that Third Eye Comics just pumped the heck out of, got me to buy all the original comic books, got me to buy the trades, got me to buy the omnibuses. I think I got this one signed. Yeah, I got this signed at AwesomeCon in 2015, so that's 4 years ago, by Mike, and yeah, we're on a first name basis. Mike. It's a great, wonderful, warm story that I really, really love, that I don't think gets enough attention, and you should all go out and find Stuff of Legend.
That looks awesome.
It sounds like a twisted Toy Story kind of thing.
Yeah. There's no Mr. Potato Head in it, though. There's a bunch of beat up teddy bears and toy soldiers and pigs, and the boogeyman is pretty scary, to tell you the truth.
Well, you can still get the omnibus used on Amazon, it looks like, for cheap. So
what about Volume 2? Omnibus Volume 2. That's the one that worries me.
I'm looking.
Okay.
That one's more difficult.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. That's why I think you should probably get the trades.
Yeah, that makes more sense, unless you want to pay $64 for it.
Oh.
No thanks.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so Stuff of Legend. Really, really cool.
I'm going to look that one up. Is it my turn again? Is that what's happening?
And I will say the Buzz Lightyear ride at Hollywood Studios at Disney is the best ride ever. Disney Hollywood Studios has a Buzz Lightyear ride where you're going around wearing 3D glasses and you're shooting stuff. You pull a string on your gun and you're shooting various like you're shooting either whipped cream pies at things to knock them out. It's like a shooting gallery, a constantly moving shooting gallery as you're moving through. And my daughter was next to me, and she's very competitive. Or you're shooting baseballs to break plates, and you're constantly shooting, just shooting, and it looks super realistic. And she, the best moment ever. The scenery's constantly changing, and you're shooting different objects out of your cannon. The best thing ever was she thought she won. She went, yeah, oh, because I beat her 98,000 to 96,000. It was awesome. So yeah, Kristan, go for it.
Okay. The Silence of Our Friends.
Oh my gosh, you're kicking my ass. I've never even heard of this.
I read this. I read this a month or two ago. It has art by Nate Powell, which you will know from the wonderful series March. This is also, like March, nonfiction. It is set in the 1960s in Texas. Let me show you some of the beautiful art. It is about, well, it's written by Mark Long and Jim DeMonacos. This is Mark Long. This is his dad, actually. Mark Long is a child when all of this happens. And his dad is a photog for a local television station. And he covers all of the African-American situations that occur. It is the 1960s. There's a lot going on. As you can just imagine, violence, you know, civil rights issues, like everything hurtful that you can think of, you will experience in this. Really, it's about their two families coming together. And the reason it's called The Silence of Our Friends is an incident occurs during a protest, and Mark's dad, who befriends this gentleman, stays silent when something happens to him and an injustice happens to him. And then the rest of the story is kind of just like, you know, if we keep being silent when these terrible things happen, nothing's going to change. So these two families from completely different backgrounds befriend each other and try to make their own changes in their lives and the lives of others. And especially, you know, he's a photog. He's telling the story through his lens. And again, Mark was a kid when all of this happened. All of this it's true story. So it's very, very powerful. And this book has a list price of $10. So if you haven't read it, I'm sure it's incredibly cheap on in-stock trades, and you should go get it. Because if you liked March, I think anybody liked March would love a story like this. And again, the art's amazing because Nate Powell is incredible. You should read this. Everyone.
New York Times bestseller.
Yeah. And again, beautiful art. It's a great story. I loved every minute. I mean, it's hurtful. It hurts you. You're like, oh no, these things happened. Oh, this is terrible. Just like March. But March was incredible. I think this is incredible like March was.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that all that stuff happened in my lifetime. It feels like a lot has happened in my lifetime, and yet it feels like hardly anything has happened in my lifetime. If I explain that right.
No, definitely, because even like reading that and reading the stories, you're like, you know, you look around at the world still, and you're like, wait, why are some of these things still happening?
Yeah,
it's crazy. And it is cheap on IST, $7.49. So you should pick it up.
Well, you got a good compliment. You should invite Kristan more often. She has a lot of good recommendations from Joe Chip.
You should invite me more often.
Well, we'll definitely have you on for part 3.
Awesome.
This seems to be a popular segment of the show. Gio, what do you have for us?
All right. I don't have a New York Times bestseller, but I do have an Eisner nominee for Best Writer. And I don't, it's a very popular writer and artist, but I don't think a lot of people know about it. And it is Annihilator from Grant Morrison and Fraser Irving. From what I gather on the internet, and I'm no expert, but a lot of people seem to skip this book, and I really dug it. It's published by Legendary, and it's pretty confusing. If you know your Grant Morrison, you know he tends to just go off the rails and do wacky things. And to best summarize Annihilator is, it's a story about this screenwriter that he had a couple of hits. He's done some work in Hollywood and now finds out that he is terminally ill, and he's writing one last epic story. Now the story shifts to space with a supermax prison near a supermassive black hole, or whatever you want to call it, and they're executing a criminal. And somehow the two stories interconnect. There's talk about interdimensional USB drives that get implanted on the writer's head, and he's basically living out the life of the character that he's writing about, which turns out to be the spaceman with space cops and just super weird space adventures. And it just has the great artwork from Fraser. Just, I don't know if everybody can pick this up from my low quality camera, but it looks really, really impressive. Just the artwork alone. It's just beautiful colors. Fraser does this wonderful thing of just weaving, like you're reading the story and his drawings are capable of evoking different types of emotions depending on what the story wants you to feel. And with cosmic stories, you get a lot of groovy colors like this that he just nails completely. It looks really stunning. I wholeheartedly recommend just reading this book on the art alone. The story can take a few tries to get. It took me like 3 reads until I was grasping whatever Grant was trying to say. It can be very meta, but the story is pretty interesting. I just like the idea. Here's our main character of fictional and reality colliding into one epic story, and it makes you question what exactly is happening and what's real, what's fake. And of course, I love the whole space opera thing. You get some really kooky religious stuff involved. It's weird. It's weird, but if you're into that sort of thing, I think you might want to give it a shot. Annihilator, it was Grant was nominated for an Eisner because of this. I don't think he won though, but yeah, it's like Grant Morrison writing about his writing process, but if suddenly the day that Earth stood still got mixed in. It's a crazy amalgam of stuff, but I think you guys might be interested in something like this. I don't know. Annihilator.
Cool.
Cover.
I think I have it. I just haven't read it.
It's pretty wacky. I want to, if you read it, Jess, let me know if you understood everything, because I'm still a bit lost by it, but it's a fun read.
Well, I was forever lost in Nameless. Nameless, I just was flat out puzzled. I read that thing 3 times and never understood it.
I don't know.
Ever understood it. I will admit to you now, I did not understand Nameless.
I think Nameless and stuff like Annihilator wants us to just go wild with our imagination and just if you're imagining this scenario, go with it. I think that's sort of what Grant is going for. I may be mistaken, but that's what I took out of it. And yeah, like I said, it's an amalgam of ideas about writing and what fiction can do, and a character that's trying to redeem himself. The main character is pretty much of an asshole, excuse my language, but throughout the story there is sort of a small redemption arc, and again, the beautiful colors. I can't recommend it enough. Annihilator.
Okay. I know I have that somewhere. I have a feeling I can pull it up here soon. This is a book that I've talked about, I think, like early on in OmniBros history, but I feel like I should talk about it again because I loved it so much, and I haven't talked about it in 3 years, so I figure it's time I talked about it again, and that's Feathers. This is about a kid born on the wrong side of the wall. There's a walled city where all the upper class lives, and everybody that lives on the outside of it is the lower class people. First of all, the art is fantastic, and this little kid is born with feathers all over his body. And he gets taken in by an older gentleman that raises him up, but wants him to be very careful because, of course, he's so different. And he, in the downtrodden part of town, somebody is snatching up children. And Feathers takes it upon himself to try and find out who it is that's doing that. And there's a little girl on the inside of the wall that wants to experience life outside the wall and see what is going on the outside of the wall, see what life is like. She's very privileged, and she wants out of her cocoon and to see what's going on. And she and Feathers strike up a friendship, and they are determined to find out who is stealing the children. And Feathers, because of his feathers, can fly a little bit, and it is a wonderful story. I can't say enough about the boy. His name is Poe, and I can't say enough about this book. I just enjoyed this to the max. It has such great heart and feeling to it, and Feathers is he's a bit headstrong, and so is the girl, and the friendship they form is kind of unlikely. You know, here he is flying her around, and there's a twist in the story, of course, who is stealing the children and why. He ends up kind of biting back against the man who adopted him because he wants to protect him. And it is, there's a song that gets played to lure the children away from the city to this person that's stealing the children. It's put out by Archaea, and this is a high quality read, nicely put together, hardcover, and boy, is it, I don't even remember how I discovered this, because I read this like 3 years ago. I can't even remember how I discovered it, who told me about it, but Feathers is something that needs to be read by you guys. Wonderful book. It is just a great fun read, and it is by Jorge Corona with Jen Hickman.
Nice.
Feather.
The art looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. It's exciting. It's kinetic.
Would it surprise you to know that I know the origin of how you got that book?
Oh, no, tell me.
It was, I believe it was around Black Friday 2016. You were doing an OmniBros episode with Ryley and Louise, and that's when all of you were interested in feathers, or at least for the first or second time.
We were all interested in feathers?
Or at least Ryley was, and you were in that. I suggested we do like a Black Friday episode, like books that you should buy for Black Friday and the holidays, and feathers was very prominent in that time frame. So I think it was around 2016 by the end of the year.
Okay, cool.
This is one of my mutant abilities. I remember weird stuff.
Good job.
Yeah, like if I see an item that I really like, it's ingrained in my memory, and I remember the circumstances of that purchase or etc.
Yeah, I remember that I talked about it on OmniBros, and I think I may have reviewed it, but I don't. I don't remember the genesis of my discovering it or anything. So it was an OmniBros discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, cool. That's awesome.
So, this book is set in Korea, Uncomfortably Happily. It is translated from Korean.
Ooh.
It is a little chunk. It is a nonfiction about this couple on the front. They're living in Seoul, Korea, and everything is really busy in their lives, and they're kind of really over the city life. They've lived in the city like all their lives, and something just needs to change. They're not having career opportunities that they want to have, and they just need a change of pace. So they find a little house in the middle of the woods away from the city, and they move there, and things change drastically in every way you can imagine. Like I said, this is a little chunk. I think it's over 500 pages. It is kind of small, though. Let's see. Archival quality is kind of not an average trade, so it's probably like, it's a little small. So it's not hard to get through. It is nonfiction, and the husband, he is a writer for comics, but he's not writing what he wants to write. He feels like he's stuck in this series that he has to write because he needs money, and his wife is a student, so she's not bringing in money, and it really just goes through all of his... He kind of has a mental health crisis and a life crisis and a career crisis, a lot of crisis. And then they do this move, and like, again, their lives just kind of change, and everything's different in pretty much every way. So they kind of have to get used to that. I love how simplistic the art is. And what's so great is like, he wrote this during this whole thing. So you can look back and be like, oh, he did write something that like he wanted to write. And it became a thing, and it was so beloved that it was translated into English, and I'm holding it now and I'm able to read it. So that is really cool when you're like, you're really feeling for this guy and his struggles, but then you're like, oh, he made this thing and it won awards, and now I'm holding it, and that's really neat. So it is very much like a slice of life and one writer's journey throughout struggles and things we can all relate to. And again, there's a good like mental health aspect to it all, and it wraps up like really nicely at the end, and you'll really feel for like his whole family and everything that's happening with him. And I really enjoyed it. That's Uncomfortably Happily.
Uncomfortably Happily. That looks great.
Mm-hmm.
It was really great.
What else you got for us, Gio?
All right. This is, well, yeah, I'm going to choose this big-ass book. You might have heard of it.
Annihilation.
It's Kaiju Max from Oni Press. Kaiju Max is actually one of my favorite reads.
Book.
I did
it's
a review
so
on it. I did a review on it on my channel for the first trade, and I had to upgrade to get this. I think it's like an absolute sized thing. It's pretty big. For anybody that doesn't know about Kaiju Max, basically it's this action-packed satire on the prison system and a love letter to kaijus or big monsters, to Super Sentai warriors, to Japanese cultural pop culture, if you will, from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It has a ton of references to all that old school stuff, if you like your Godzillas and all that. And it's the story at the heart of the story is this monster that is raising two younglings by himself, and he gets captured. And monsters that get captured are sent to this Supermax prison on this island called Kaiju Max, where they are monitored by giant police guards and like giant robots and all that stuff. And you get to see the dynamic and the social structure that forms in a prison with gangs, rivals, how people are, or in this case, monsters are subdued, and how they're, obviously they committed crimes, but or some of them have committed crimes. They're stripped of their quote unquote humanity, if you will. Some are demoralized. In the case of our main character, he's not really a bad guy per se. He's just looking out for his kids, and he's trying to feed them. And he just, for example, I think he was like an electrical type monster. He got caught trying to eat like the power grid, the power cables that are in the Atlantic Ocean, stuff like that, to feed his babies and all that stuff. And yeah, it's just a kooky, wonderful read. It can get pretty dark, pretty violent, and it just looks so awesome. I love the art in this, and the author Xander Cannon, he did the whole thing by himself. It looks great. You get to see wonderful stuff like this, and like I said, if you like all this weird, awesome Japanese stuff that a lot of people grew up on, especially my old man, then you're gonna get a kick out of Kaiju Max and this big ass edition that I can barely hold in frame. It's awesome. I really, really like it. It's something special.
Yeah, I don't even like kaiju and monsters and robots, and I love this book.
That's how I felt.
On the surface, you think it's like a silly story, but it goes deeper, and you find, and with each read, you find something new to analyze over and enjoy. And yeah, Kaiju Max, one of my favorite reads from OmniPress. Also, a quick PSA. If you order this book from Amazon, you'll likely get the misprint. This has 2 pages that are identical to each other. You have to order it from Instagram.com to get the proper version. I ordered it from Amazon by mistake and got the error in my copy. So be wary of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my pick.
Within the first few issues of that, like, it got so dark that I was like, oh, this isn't at all what I thought it was going to be. But it's great. And it'll make you go, oh.
It's fun because there's this contrast, because it's so vivid and colorful and bright and sunny, and murder, gang violence. There's a ton of stuff that's happening. Drug usage. It goes to dark places. Yeah. Great read.
It is a great read. Really great read. Is it my turn?
I think so.
Sure.
Okay. I know where I got this recommendation from my old friend Bon Idlehouse. This is Doom Boy from Magnetic Press. And
that looks awesome.
Tony Sandoval wrote this, and it's one of those books that's hard to get on a shelf because it's one of those long ones. It's about a kid, 15-year-old kid, and it's hard to get in the frame here. But it's about a 15-year-old kid and his guitar. He loses his girlfriend at a young age, and so he goes out onto the beach with a friend and a cassette recorder and starts wailing out these awesome love songs to his lost girlfriend, who I said died. Now, through some magic, these love songs hit the local airwaves, and people are listening to his music on the radio. He is unaware of that. All he knows is that he's just making these tapes for his girl. And there's other stuff going on in it too. There's some bullies in it, and there's some other teenage drama going on. But his name is D. His metal name is Doom Boy. And so everybody's wondering who's Doom Boy, who's making these awesome songs. And all he knows is that he's out there on the beach wailing away, making these awesome metal love songs to his lost girlfriend. And it just, a lot of things happen in here that they set up their equipment. Here's a picture of him with his friend as he's wailing away with his dog. They're broadcasting. They don't really know to who. And pretty soon cassette tapes start swirling around, and he becomes famous locally. And some drama happens here and there involving local bullies and somebody that he thought was a friend of his. And like a gang fight happens, and there's a hole in him that's like a hole in his heart that can't be filled. And it is wonderfully illustrated, and it is it's really a work of like a lost love and what he's willing to do to sing his heart out. Look at this picture, just the power of his guitar jamming to sing his song of love to his dead girlfriend. Nice. Nick Munoz, can you just read it to us, Jess? Please also do voices. Yeah, it is really, really cool. And it passes if it passes Bond's test, it is a really cool independent book. So that's Doom Boy by Magnetic Press. I've read this several times, and I get something different out of it every time. But what's there is just the aching loneliness of a kid that lost his girlfriend and pouring his heart out into his guitar, becoming a local celebrity, and then all the other teen angst that goes with it. And it's a really, really wonderful book. I love this book a lot.
That book has Reed written all over it. I need to get that for him.
Oh, he would love
I'd go crazy for that. Are we still going, or are we cutting it off sometime?
That's up to us. I have 2 more books I can talk about. What do you guys have?
I have a stack. I could go forever.
Well, we do have part 3 still to come. So
right. Okay. Well, I got one in my hand. I'll do one. You guys can finish. How about that?
Okay.
All right. Sure. So you guys know that meme that everyone's seen. It's from a Fuller comic, but it's the dog holding the coffee mug, and he's saying this is fine, and everything's on fire around him.
Yeah. What's that from?
Okay.
Yeah.
Casey Green did that. He has a really popular webcomic called Gun Show. Well, this is another book he did for Oni Press. So if you recognize the art, That's why, because you've seen that comic. So this is called Graveyard Quest. I'm going to pull a Jess and read a line on the back of this because I can't sum it up better than this.
I do that.
Yeah. So this follows a blue-collar skeleton and his mole buddy on their journey to hell and back to retrieve his most prized possession. And I don't know how to better describe it than that. So you can see it's very cartoony. This little skeleton guy, you're going on his journey to something was stolen from him, and he digs graves, and he's got to figure it out. So he's like, okay, I'm going, and I gotta figure out who stole it, and I want it back, and it's really special to him. So it is so crazy. It is so bizarre. I have to admit, I was about halfway through and I was like, what am I reading? Like, do I want to keep reading this? Like, is this even worth it? Well, it's one of those books where the last bit of it was so good and just kind of hit me in the feels. I'm like, how am I having feels for this weird mess, right? Well, I do. And it makes the entire thing completely worth it. You've probably seen a lot of weird things if you're looking at this art at all. And there's a lot of weird stuff that happens. Again, hell and back. It's very bizarre. But that end really got it for me. And then I was like, oh, that's why I'm reading this. Because it got real good. And then it ended. So I don't know if that's a great recommendation, but it's definitely worth it. And you've all seen the dog, and you all love the dog. So this is Casey Green and Graveyard Quest. It's worth it because you'll also feel that way. You'll be like, ooh, what am I reading? What is this about? Why are there words dancing? Like, what is this? And then the end will happen, and you'll be like, whoa, that was fabulous. So Graveyard Quest.
Wow, where do you come up with this stuff? That's amazing.
You guys should try it just so you can be like, oh, you were right. It's very weird, but then the end.
That art reminds me of the Cuphead video game. It's sort of that old-timey feel, like 1930s cartoons.
Yeah, it's super cartoon. I love that kind of art too.
That's awesome. Oh, you guys are baiting me to buy all these books. Dang it.
Gio, do you have something else for us?
Yeah. All right. This isn't something I usually read, but this was gifted to me from a very good friend. It is Through the Woods from Emily Carroll.
Oh yeah, classic.
Oh, I love it. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's not what I normally read, but I was engrossed by it. I thought it was awesome. These short stories with fantastic, beautiful artwork. I was just hooked. Like, I read the story and was like, okay, that's some super creepy stuff. But I kept reading it because the art is so dang pretty and mysterious and creepy and beautiful. I don't know. It was a very weird and fun experience to check this book out. And yeah, there's not a whole lot to say. It's 5 mysterious stories, and they all have a common theme, which is the woods and the not knowing what's out there and the abyss, and that central theme runs throughout the 5 stories. But it's really, really freaking badass and beautiful, and I love this. This was really awesome. And if you like creepy stories, you're just gonna love this, and you'll thank me later because it's pretty dang great. And I mean, check this out. Spaghetti monster thing that's happening right there. Yeah, this was one of my favorite panels. Or Google for the necklace, and it's pretty awesome. It's light read. You'll read it. You'll knock it out in like 30 like hour or something if you're slow like me. But it's worth it in my opinion. Through the Woods from Emily Carroll.
I second that. I love that.
Yeah, I agree. That got a lot of critical buzz when it came out.
Oh, there you go. I had no idea because I usually don't read that type of stuff, but that it was an obscure read for me. But I do recommend it.
Okay, this will be my last one. This is from one of my favorite independent guys. I don't know who this is going to appeal to besides, well, we're all comic collectors to a certain extent. And this is from Seth, who's a famous independent cartoonist. He's currently going to be putting out Clyde Fans, the collection that he's been working on for, it seems like, the past 10 years. But this is a little book called Wimbledon Green, the greatest comic book collector in the world. The greatest comic book collector in the world. And this really wasn't even going to be a book. It came from us, like sketchbook ideas that Seth did on sketchbook ideas that Seth did, and he was just noodling around, and it turned out to be a complete book that he did. But it is a hilarious send up of all comic book collectors out there, and I totally see myself in this book, being the comic book collector that I am. Wimbledon Green, this is him right here. He considers himself, it's his adventures in collecting, and it's not real. They're not real comic books. Like The Green Ghost is the rarest comic book in the world, and what he goes through to collect it. It's a whole arc in the book, what he goes through to collect and wrap up and find an issue of The Green Ghost. And it is he goes to Fantasticon 1965, and he his adventures there, and these are typical Seth drawings, these little teeny panels with these little teeny people in it, and they're all just they're all crazy people, and I just see so many random comic book collectors in this, and I'll be the first to admit that I am one of them. I am. This is Green Ghost Part 2. It goes on. I mean, he hires a plane and has spies looking out for him to try and locate this, and he's got other collectors that are on the trail, and they're all going ape over this one issue of the book, and there's a crash, and he loses his memory, and he gets picked up by one of his rivals, and the whole thing's insane. And I just love this book. It's so, I don't even know if it's in print anymore, but I doubt anybody really wants to read it. But I did. I just love this book because it's one of my favorite books by Drawn and Quarterly, just because it's so out there, kooky. Maybe this is the elitist in me that likes to think that I'm different than other comic book collectors, but I'm really not. This is, you know, I walk into a comic book convention the same as other people, looking for deals, looking for the comics in the best condition. And, you know, now with CGC, those days are kind of gone where you can, you know, be flipping through the bins and pull out some magical comic book in the fabulous condition and stuff. And you know, I've been doing that since I was a little kid. But Wimbledon Green just super appealed to me. And so I'm not going to apologize for it. Wimbledon Green. I love him.
That looks fun to me.
Mm-hmm. ETL's quoting me. I doubt if anyone even wants to read it, but I loved it. Chase Chu, the only reason I didn't pick any P-bag comics is because I don't think he's under the radar. I think P-bag is pretty much like Dan Close. They are above the radar and way appreciated. That's just my opinion. I mean, I certainly have enough clothes and bag comics that I could highlight. If you think P-Bag is underappreciated, I mean, I've got the Bradleys and Neat Stuff and all kinds of things by Peter Bagg. No, Chase Chew, don't say that. Don't say forgive me. If you think he's underappreciated, I'll pull some stuff out for the next round. I got plenty. So, a lot of these books that we highlighted, especially archival quality that everybody seems to want now, including me, can be found on InStockTrades.com, where you can get your collected editions up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. Every quarter there's an Omnibros Live discount. Fangirlz Assemble has what, Kristan?
We haven't announced it yet, but there will be a new deal in about 2 weeks. Also, you can catch us every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
That's right. You got to get that plug in there. The Fangirlz Assemble has a special title frequently where you get a certain percentage off. A lot of times it's 50% off. Over $50 in an order gets you free shipping in the United States of America. Fabulous customer service, fabulous packaging. That's InStockTrades.com.
Nice.
And thank you to the chat. We had a lot of good questions, a lot of good stuff going on in the chat tonight. Thank you to our fabulous guest, Kristan, who just told us every Sunday you can listen to Fangirlz Assemble at 8 p.m. And Gio, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at A Week in on YouTube. Subscribe for anime, manga, movies, and comics, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. A Week in
Geekdom. And you can find me, Omnidog, on Omnidog's Vault on YouTube and on Instagram, Omnidogs_Vault, where I will be posting pictures of me and Dole Whip, where you can only get at Disney World. Holy smoke, Dole Whip. Nice. Is awesome. So thank you to Kristan for being our guest tonight. Peace and love. Peace and love.